media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amba News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed, with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news, untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambatv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you prepared? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA, and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians, watch ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 10 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned.
The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is to draft. Draft and draft and draft. People of Ambazonia, draft.
Why the war draft is a must now. Fellow Ambazonians, after 5 years of relentlessly fighting for the liberation of our homeland from the genocidal occupation of French Cameroon, it's very important that we remember why we are fighting and why it's so absolutely necessary that we continue to fund the struggle by joining the war draft and making even greater sacrifices than before. When the United Nations General Assembly in Resolution 1608-XV of April 21, 1961, granted independence to the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, they did not expect that 61 years after, this territory will be forcefully annexed and colonized by a belligerent neighbor. It must be noted here that the territory of the Southern Cameroons had already attained self-government as early as 1954, a status we enjoyed up to 1972, when the state of West Cameroon, Southern Cameroons, was illegally annexed, overrun and occupied by French Cameroon. And because the Southern Cameroons within secure internationally recognized boundaries, she had a functional police force under the direct command of the Prime Minister and head of government, including a mobile paramilitary wing that played the role of a territorial self-defense force. It was this vibrant territorial force that was illegally and surreptitiously disbanded by the Yaoundé regime in the mid-60s, when our nationalist leader and head of government of the Southern Cameroons, Bobe Augustin Ngom-Dua, was overthrown by the creeping annexationist regime of Amadou Ahidjo. So as we enter another patriotic war draft and fundraiser for our violent restoration forces, we must remember that just as we restored Dr. Ndele's government on October 1st, 2017, we are also restoring our territorial self-defense force, now dubbed the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, ARF. Charged with not only the defense of our country and our nation, but also with driving out for once the occupation forces of genocidal Cameroon, Taking part in the war draft for our Ambazonian restoration forces is therefore a great patriotic duty that we must all embrace. As we speak, the country of Ukraine is under attack, with parts of her territory occupied by the Russians. We have seen how the Ukrainians have risen like one man to defend their territory, instituting a war draft that has prohibited men from the ages of 18 to 60 years of age from leaving the country. Not only are they not allowed to leave the country, but they're also compelled to take an active part in the defense of their country against the occupying forces of Russia. This is the same patriotic fervor that we expect from all Ambazonians now in fulfilling our sacred duty of defending and freeing the motherland from the genocidal grip of Cameroon's occupation forces. Thousands of our young men and women have risen since 2017, picking up arms and fighting the occupation forces to the death. We've lost thousands with many more injured, while thousands more are in the bushes fighting day and night to drive out the occupiers. It's therefore imperative that those of us, especially those in the diaspora, that are not confronting the enemy on the ground play our part and fulfill a sacred duty of drafting, raising the funds, and providing the logistics that our restoration forces need to resist the occupiers. Fellow Ambazonians, joining the draft and contributing generously is not a matter of choice for any Ambazonia, but a sacred duty to oneself, family, and the nation. They say sacrifice makes gods of men, makes us sacred, so let us do our duty now. Our President, His Excellency Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, and the Resource Mobilization Department will be visiting each and every county soon for another round of the draft. Based on the current geopolitical atmosphere, this is a time for us to empower our restoration fighters on the ground to achieve some of our key strategic and military goals, to once more prove to the world that we are ready to not only reclaim but to defend our country after liberation from any future aggression. By building a formidable, responsible, and credible self-defense force, Ambazonians will be proving to the world that we are a responsible state and ready to play a constructive role in the Gulf of Guinea. The rest of the world is watching and waiting to see how capable Ambazonians are in terms of establishing themselves as Africa's newest state. We must therefore make even greater sacrifices in our efforts to upgrade our valiant restoration forces as they lay their lives on the line to liberate Ambazonia. As a footnote, we must remember that it costs between $3,000 to $5,000 to properly equip each restoration fighter to effectively engage the enemy. So as we look up to our boys on the ground, expecting results from them, we must first ask ourselves how far we've gone to empower them. We must first ask ourselves how much financial sacrifices we have made to provide them the means to fulfill their sacred duties. Fellow Ambazonians, this is a time for us to draft until we drop. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions. Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day while our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers? Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort while our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the front? Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communications equipment to maximize their efforts? Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics? Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy? On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country? Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical intelligence and other special operations across the national territory? Fellow Ambazonians, as we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Ambazonia die as a wish, because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting of a great people. Fellow Ambazonians, the war draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No great victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depends on that. Welcome to this very special edition of Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. It is 48 hours away from the big day, Mezam County Draft Day. The clouds are pouring, preparations are escalating, and Mezamians are anxiously waiting. Mezam, oh yes, it is the moment the peoples of Ambazonia have been craving for, the grand debut of this year's Draft Award 22. From Manka Bachungwa to Nkwenza, Baliyonga to Bemenda Nkwe, Bafut to Babanki, from the Mezam home front community into the Mezam diaspora community, you can literally see the ambience thick in the air. Ma Victorine Nyangi happens to be the catalyst, with her hips, shoulders high, her regalia so beautiful you just can't deny. She beats the rhythm like a true daughter of her mother, a real woman from the grass field. As chairperson of the Ambazonian Foundation, Mrs. Victorine Nyangi's humor cuts across the board like a two-edged sword, digging into the souls of stakeholders and freedom fighters. You can just imagine what Saturday has in store for you. Remember, I said it is a special edition of Undaunted. Yes, it is special because of a special personality, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Mr. Eric Ateh. In tonight's Undaunted, we will crack open some of the untold stories at the home front, examine very closely the updates of the Swiss-led process ahead of Team Act's town hall starting at 8 p.m. Amba time, and pre-analyze Pa Augustine Ndangam's talk. In this delight, we hope the Vice President, in his eloquence and awesome wisdom, will do us justice, ice and cream the cake as always. I know you just can't wait. But first, let's get the prime headline.
Prime headlines for today, July 14th. Today we will have full briefings from the Vice President of Ambazonia, His Excellency Mr. Eric Ateh. La Republic to Cameroon administration are against motorcycles in southern Cameroon. Human rights lawyer match words with action, drags notorious Moja to military court for kidnapping, abuse of power and torture. Where is the ring road Paul Biya promised 40 years ago? Is a question we will be asking today. La Republic is a lone delinquent, a failed state declared by IMF and the World Bank. I'm sure you want to sit back to hear the full details of that report. And also today, Paniki Yaoundé bans suspicious items from public places. By sunset Saturday, denizens of Mezam County other home fronts will be sitting on their screens watching as the happening people, stakeholders make things happen. The draft for Mezam is just a few hours away, and I must say that even the leaves on the trees are aware that something big is about to happen. During these very special moments, Undaunted is delighted to have exclusively the constitutionally successor of the president of Ambazonia, the vice president, Mr. Eric Ateh, to help in qualifying the news this evening. There is so much for us to talk about this evening, and I think this is the appropriate juncture to commence. Good evening and welcome to this very special edition of Undaunted. I am Onyi Okbale, and of course, you know, Stir Smart is the able completion of this team. Good evening, Stir.
Good evening, Onyi, and my pleasure, of course. As you already know, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is undaunted today. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, I would like to say, welcome to our Vice President. It is exceptional and first of its kind to have him connected with us in our studio tonight. I'd like to, there's going to be so much happening because right now there is so much happening on the ground that we need to talk about today, and you must be pre-notified that we are highly expectant as you, the Vice President of Ambazonia, gets involved. You know, you are a Mezam born, and this is like the big weekend for Mezam County. With your permission, we would like you to allow us to take a historic bearing of the heart of Mezam to lay down the foundation for this discussion. Mankan, historically spelled Mankong, like the Kong after King Kong, is a geohistoric community constituting a large part of Bamenda in the Midland zone of Ambazonia, formed as an amalgamation of about 5 different ethnic groups. The Mankon Fundum, that's kingdom, that represents one of the oldest monarchies of the grassfield people of the Midland zone. Well, Gab Allison will go down to history to ensure some facts that will bless tonight's talk. Let's hear Gab Ellison.
Bamenda is located along latitude 5 degrees 58 north and longitude 10 degrees 11 south and covers an area of about 290 square kilometers at an altitude of 11,600 meters above sea level. Bamenda is peculiarly partitioned into 2 sections by the east-west aligned Bamenda escarpment. The northern sector of the town comprises parts of the highland villages of Nja and Mendankwe, popularly known as the station. It overlooks the low-lying and dominant sector which occupies the undulating plain stretching southwards from the original hamlet of Abakwa to incorporate parts of the Mankan, Nkwen, Chomba, Mbatu, and Nsongwa. The climate of Bamenda, like that of most parts of the Midland zone, is generally cool and pleasant. There are 2 main seasons: the rainy season that lasts for about 6 months with an annual rainfall of about 200 mm. The other half of the year is the dry season. The vegetation is mainly savanna with patches of deciduous forest. Groups of raffia palms dominate the riverine slopes, and afforestation with eucalyptus trees has greatly modified the dominance of the savanna. The area is drained by River Mezam and its tributaries, which flow through the suburban villages of Mbatu and Nsongwa. The Ayaba and Libakan streams also run through the town. The Bamenda population today stands at over 500,000 inhabitants. At about 1890, the Germans who built their station in Bali later moved to Mendankwe village. Using Bali interpreters, the Germans changed the name of Mendankwe village to Bamendakwe, meaning people of Mendankwe, and gave the name Bamenda to the area in which their fort was built. The British colonial administration, which succeeded the Germans after the First World War, made the area the capital of Bamenda province, an administrative unit in the then southern Cameroons. it became the capital of Bamenda Division in the former colonial geopolitical West Cameroon, then Mezam, formerly Bamenda Division, and of the Bamenda Central Subdivision, and finally of the Northwest Province and now region following the restructuring of the administrative areas of the Republic. Take note of all this according to colonial administrative setups. The interim government has restructured Mezam into 6 local government areas: Mankon Bachungwa, Nkwemza, Bamendagwe, Santa, Bali, Bafut, Tuba, Babanki. Let's overview Abakwa. The main settlers in Bamenda Upstation were colonial administrators, first colonial and then Cameroonians. Below the station, at the foot of the escarpment, a settlement developed made up mostly of self-employed people. The first distinct group of settlers were Hausa men from northern Nigeria who in 1916 were offered a piece of land by the late Fon of Mankon, Angwafor II. Their new home, Ntambeng, became widely known as Abakwa in Hausa language, meaning land of strangers, and formed the nucleus of Bamenda town as we know it today. Other immigrant groups soon moved in from Bali, Banso, Bafut, Mamfe, Meta, and Iboland from Nigeria. The late 1950s came with another wave of settlers from Mbuda and Bafusam, most of them refugees fleeing from the political upheavals in the former East Cameroon. Abakwa grew in size and population with pockets of ethnic settlements spreading into the chiefdoms of Nkwen, Mendankwe, Mbatu, Chomba, and Osongwa. Bamenda town prior to June 1977 was the administrative center of the Mankon Rural Council, though the municipality was jointly administered by the Mankon and Tuba Rural Councils. The situation changed with the promulgation of Decree No. 77-203 of June 29, 1977, creating the Bamenda Urban Council, known today as City Council. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
That's quite an in-depth look into the historicity and geography of Mezam County. I mean, what do you think, Oni?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. A reason why they are the first to start drafting. So
Indeed.
We have a whole lot to look out for in Mezam County. All right, I think it's time for us to usher in the Vice President of Ambazonia as he reacts to these alongside his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians, I'm sure that you are ready. Let's have His Excellency Mr. Eric Ateh address us this evening.
Thank you, Uncle Ladies. Thank you, Uncle Lady Onye Okpala. Thank you, Star Smart. I would like to say that I have been watching you, both of you, for quite a while now. I know you've never had me on your platform, but I just want to, first of all, thank you and appreciate you for all that you do for Ambazonia, for really, really putting our case before the people of the international community and putting things in perspective for the Republic of Cameroon, that we as Ambazonians are resolved to get our country back. So for that, and in the name of my fellow Ambazonians, I thank you. People of Ambazonia, this Saturday, 16th of July, we gather once more in Mezam County, from which I hail. I am here today to have a conversation, not only with the Anchor Ladies, but also with my fellow Ambazonians, to encourage everyone to come out in their numbers and support Mezam County. You know, back in 2016, when our people saw lawyers abused in the street because they refused to adhere to the precept of the Okada law from the dictatorial regime of the Republic of Cameroon, and saw how they were battered and dragged in the streets like common criminals, how our university girls were dragged and raped and soiled in sewage. The people of Ambazonia decided to stand up and say, hey, you know what? Enough is enough. This is not the time for this kind of barbaric actions to continue taking place in our territory. They decided to restore their independence on 1st of October 1961, because to them, I would say to us, the time had come for us to put a stop to the occupation and subjugation and cruelty that was meted on our people for over 60 years. And here we are today. For the last 2 years, we have been drafting to assert our authority on our territory and to also bring support to the brave men and women who have diligently fought to fend off the wolves who come into our territory to devour our children and annihilate our people. The Ambazonian people have been very strong. Their resolve have been untainted and unwavered. And I plead with every Ambazonian to continue harboring that spirit of solidarity towards each other as we galvanize support to help our men, women, and children dying to free their motherland. Should always remember that those who have picked up arms to defend off the wolves, whose only motive is to annihilate us, are the best of Ambazonia. And the only thing we can ever offer them is our support. We should always make sure that they do not succumb to this cruelty because they don't have the tools they need to defend themselves. My fellow Ambazonians, I invite all of you to attend the Zoom draft for Mezam County. And with that, I will hand it over to our anchor ladies. Thank you very much, Ambazonia, and thank you, anchor ladies, for having me here today.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you here this evening, and I'm sure that you are ready for all of the questions that we have in stock for you. So please sit back, relax, and go through the news with us this evening, because I believe that you, alongside all of us here, alongside all Ambazonians, are doing the news together this evening.
Stay tuned. You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
You're welcome back. We here at Undaunted reported on colonial police force of La Republique du Cameroon squeezing money out of commercial motorbike riders in Mezam County of the Savannah region of Ambazonia. With the calculated attempt of La Republique du Cameroon to maim southern Cameroon, which is right now not a secret anymore, the imperialist regime have stepped up the game to frustrate commercial bike riders. More than 200 motorbikes have been arrogated within 12 hours by La Republique du Cameroon's colonial forces of law. In Bamenda, the chief town of the Savannah region, how will those whose motorbikes have been arrogated meet up with basic needs? What will become of the numerous mouths depending on these commercial motorbike riders? Is it not a strategy by the colonial government of Cameroon to push southern Cameroons to the wall? And let's not forget, some of these motorbike riders, they're graduates who could not get jobs and just made this their second or only source of income. These are the questions we're asking.
The population of Bamenda in the later hours of Tuesday, July 12, 2022, were not surprised with heavy deployment of La Republique du Cameroon colonial-oriented forces of law and order, because it has been the new normal since dictator Paul Biya declared war on southern Cameroonians in 2017. What was rather astonishing was the seizing of motorbikes by the military. These bikes were arrogated at gunpoint without any reason given to them for such an operation. Breaking Wednesday, July 13, 2022, the colonial military of La Republique du Cameroon continued with the operation No Motorbikes in the chief town of the Savannah region, Bamenda. Undaunted went finding, and just to note that there has been no document on the restrictions of the motorbikes. We equally asked one of the colonial policemen what it takes to retrieve a bike from their keeping. What Undaunted was told is that negotiations on how bikers can regain their bikes can be after 2 months. What a way to punish the people, you would say. This complete action to rob commercial bike riders from their bikes and means of livelihood is coming weeks after we reported here that the police forces were involved in one-term extortion of monies from these same bike riders.
If these bike riders now come to demand for justice, they will be tagged terrorists. Just 2 months for children to resume schooling from the summer holiday, La République du Cameroon has decided to frustrate parents who have embraced commercial motorbike riding as the only source of living. This is actually wickedness. I mean, supporters of Southern Cameroon to part ways with La République du Cameroon are just too right. With this, you can see that. This is a developing story, and of course, Undaunted is on it, and we'll get you in subsequent news. Like we mentioned earlier, and like you have seen, we have the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia here with us to dig into this findings we made. I believe he has some observations and some things to say in regards to these motorbikes that are being seized and arrogated for no just cause. Let's have the Vice President, please.
Thank you, Uncle Ladies. It doesn't come as a surprise to us, because that is how it has been for a very long time. I would just like to inform the international community and those well-wishers around the world that some of these bike riders are not just anybody. These are, people who actually went to school, got an education, but because our people had been so marginalized within that corrupt system, they couldn't get jobs. You have some of these bike riders with degrees in their pocket, university degrees, and now they have reduced them to the point where they have to ride bikes, and even then, they will not even let them, make a little money with their bikes. And that is why we are resolved to free our country, because we cannot continue to live like this, where an occupier comes into our country and just disrupt the lives of our people. The institutions don't work, and as a matter of fact, we don't even care if their institution work. We have institutions now. The only thing we are asking the Republic of Cameroon is to come to that negotiation table so we can, negotiate, so they can leave our country, so we live in peace as neighbors. But I would like to caution them too, that the more they abuse our people, the farther we become. There will be a time, and that time will come when we will be two separate countries. I will caution them not to damage the relationship that we would have had after we take our country and live as neighbors. Because the pain that they are inflicting on our people is something that will live with us for a very, very long time. And I want to also encourage the people of Cameroon to persuade their government to stop abusing the people of Ambazonia. I think our people had enough. And to see their terrorist soldiers running around our territory seizing motorbikes, the only source of income for these people is mind-boggling. And I think it is time for them to stop. But you know what? We are at war. And I can assure you that if they continue in their pursuits, we will flush them out. They are our enemies, because what comes into your home and kills your children and does the kind of things they do on our population is our enemy. So this message goes to them. Leave our country now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Mr. President. One more question on that before we move on. Now, we've reported last week that we have policemen extorting money from our boys. Today, again, we are reporting that they are seizing our bikes. Of course, it's our bikes. So right about now, you have where they are struggling to have a proper means of income rather than doing the wrong things. And then we have them being restricted. Is there any other thing that you would advise that they can do? Because, I mean, we are trying to address this. They're trying to kill the morals of these boys. They're trying to kill the talents that they have. They're trying to kill the heart of labor and hard work that they have. Before they achieve this, is there any other thing that they can do? Or is there any other thing that the interim government can do for them so that they can have another source of livelihood? Remember, we mentioned as well that they are graduates. Over to you, Mr. Vice President.
I don't want to sound too radical, but I would say that when the terrorists of the Republic of Cameroon come into our territory, they do not distinguish between those who are armed and those who are not armed. They have killed children, grandmothers, and just ordinary citizens alike. So if one were to ask me, what can we do? My position would be that every Ambazonian citizen should arm themselves. If the government doesn't distinguish between you and a soldier, then why would you be walking around without a pistol? Find a way to get a gun. We are about 8 million of us. If all 8 million Ambazonians pick up a weapon, La République would not stand a chance. The fact of the matter is, this is the way these people have operated in our territory for a very long time. Before they annexed our country, we lived in a society where police officers respected the citizens. When they pull you over, they respectfully ask for your papers, and you show them the papers. If there is no problem with your documentation, they let you go. They thank you and let you go. But this is the way they have extorted money from our people for a very long time. This thing new. When you send police officers or gendarmes to control traffic, when they pull someone over, it doesn't matter who they are, they just collect their documents, put it under their armpit, go and sit down somewhere while drinking beer, while drinking alcohol, and then you have to leave your car, go to them and give them money. They will not even look at your papers. So to them, it doesn't even matter if you have the right documentation or not. And it has our territory has now become a money market for them. Most of the kidnappings is done by them. Most of the kidnappings is done by them. And we do have intelligence that says most of the people who are kidnapped in Ambazonia, the ransom is paid to people who live on the other side of the Mongo in Cameroon. So what does that tell you? Their goal is to demoralize our people so they give up the fight. But I want to let them know, if our people were to give up this fight, where do they go?
All right.
Do you really expect our people to go back to this kind of government, to go back to this kind of system? I don't think so. So my radical advice to every Ambazonian who lives on home front is to arm yourself.
Yes,
Arm
yes,
yourself.
Mr. Vice President, I'm coming in right there. You know, to a government, to a military government like La République du Cameroon, looking for every opportunity to manhandle every Ambazonian, Southern Cameroonian like us, do you think that asking them to equip themselves with a gun is a right advice at this time when they are looking for every single opportunity to go against us? Do you think that this is the right advice? Noting that, in some African countries, I'm taking a look at Nigeria, for example, sometime 3 years ago, a former governor asked his people to take arms and defend themselves. Now, that's because they had some kind of military or what do they call them, Boko Haramist kind of issue. But here we are, where these people are looking for an opportunity to take down our boys without proper teaching in terms of handling of guns and all of that. Do you think that that is the right advice at this time?
Well, my question to you would be, I know you are asking the question, but let me ask you a question. If you were in your house or you're driving down the street and a police officer comes into your house, takes or a soldier, a Cameroon soldier comes into your house, shoots you, rapes your daughter, rape your wife, and you don't have anything to defend yourself or to fend him off. What would you prefer? Would you prefer to be naked? Would you prefer to be armless? Or would you prefer to have had the opportunity as a man or as a woman to defend your family? Look, pick up the gun, point it, and shoot him. The right to bear arms is not just something that is given that is given. It is an inherent right. Every individual on earth has the right to defend themselves. In the case of Nigeria, Nigeria is an independent country. Nigeria is not being occupied. So, asking the citizens of Nigeria to pick up arms to defend themselves against a certain segment of their population abusing them may be a little bit, maybe overreaching, but Ambazonia is under occupation. Over 400 villages have been burned. Grandmothers burned in their homes. Children killed. Women, children raped. How can a father sit in his home and the Cameroon military knocks the door without any warrant whatsoever, pull out his gun, shoot the father, rapes the wife in front of the father, rape the children, and then turn around and kill them all? No one should ever be allowed to be subjected to that kind of cruelty. Truly believe that the only way we win our freedom is to refuse them victory. And how do we refuse them victory? By letting them know that they are not welcome into our homes, they are not welcome on our streets, they are not welcome anywhere in Ambazonia. Those citizens of La République du Cameroon who reside in our country must respect the people of the land. We don't have any problem with an ordinary La République citizen who resides in our country, but we have a problem with the men who carrying guns, abusing our people, seizing their bikes, just making their lives miserable. So I will still take the position that if I were there, I would not just walk around with no arms on me. I will carry a pistol to protect myself. Personal protection is very necessary now. Every able man or woman or son or daughter in Ambazonia should buy a gun. Buy your gun. Because if we have 8 million guns or 8 million citizens carrying guns, the 15,000 troops that make up the army of the Republic of Cameroon will not be able to subjugate us. So that is my position. That is my radical position. Because, enough is enough. And that's why we are drafting. Please, Ambazonians, listen to me. Arm yourself to the teeth. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for those wise words. Those words are definitely very sound and wise. Defense is a right. You've heard the Vice President say defense is a right. So due to time, we're just going to move on with the news now, but we still have our Vice President with us here to ask him further questions and so he can relate with the news to fellow Ambazonians out there watching.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
So there was this story we reported in the course of the week about Barrister Tamfu and his team who want to, who made a statement rather, And onto it, I think they've actually kept to their words. Their words have actually matched their actions. 99 days for the thief and 1 day for the owner, so it is said. Chief Ewomo Ekobo John of Wassa village, also known as Moja Moja, has been dragged to the military court in Yaoundé by 7 lawyers and other human rights defenders. Recalling that the text spells out the equality of all citizens in rights and in duty, the lawyer said, "It is inconceivable that a soldier acts under the rule of the Cameroonian army to commit atrocious acts against the citizens he is called upon to protect while remaining unpunished."
Barrister Tamfu is categorical that the ruler and soldier must pay for his numerous acts of torture and assaults against innocent civilians in Boya local government area and other parts of the Atlantic zone. He says his attention has been brought to a number of videos wherein Chief Moja Moja is seen intimidating, torturing, maiming and assaulting innocent citizens for no good reason. In his words, he says, "We cannot continue to sit back watching this guy unleashing terror and active violence on innocent civilians with impunity. To the best of my knowledge, this guy is a military personnel of the Cameroon Army and a chief of a certain village in Boya local government area," stated these Barrister Tamfu.
You know, he added that in a recent video, he saw Chief Moja Moja kicking a young man into his car boot. It is not clear, he says, what awaits this young man or certain that the young man is still alive or dead. The responsibility of La République du Cameroon in protecting the lives and property of its citizens is put in jeopardy by Chief Moja Moja, who is being described as a licensed human rights violator and xenophobe. He has on several occasions accosted, tortured and disfigured many people, many young people actually, in Boya, under the pretext of hunting separatist fighting for the independence of Ambazonia. Barrister Tamfu notes that with his reign of terror on civilians, he's wondering aloud why the Cameroonian government he is supporting is so quiet about his atrocities in a country which calls itself a state of law.
Some of his excesses recorded includes the attack on 4 young men, whom including, according to a video he personally recorded. We brought you that video last week. Hail from Babanki, Tuba local government area late last year, he targeted a 30-year-old pregnant woman, Ted Kongso Golar, who alongside her 2 children were dragged from her husband's house in Stampede Boya, tortured, paraded along the streets, and later handed to the gendarmes that she had been his girlfriend to General No Pity, a dreaded restoration fighter. All right, before we move further with the news, fellow Ambazonians, remember we told you when we started Undaunted tonight that today's news is a special broadcast as we have the Vice President with us in the studio. We would like to have his take on this particular issue concerning Moja Moja and what Barrister Tamfu is doing concerning it as well. Vice President, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Liz. I just want to be quite emphatic here. You don't expect a terrorist to try a terrorist. This goes back to authenticate what I said and to give credence to it. If our people were armed, a terrorist like Moja Moja would have not been transferred to his masters. He's in Cameroon. What he does. I distinctly remember when their so-called prime minister had visited one of the areas in the southern zone of our country, and Moja Moja was there to receive him. That is a direct endorsement of his activities. This is not before he started doing what he's doing. It was after he had been abusing our people and doing the things that he did. If a prime minister of a country receives someone like that, what does that tell you? That tells you that person is his hired gun. You know what? Maybe they're going to bring him to the military tribunal in Yaoundé to protect him. I don't think they're able to actually serve him justice, because you know what? He has a cross on his head already in Ambazonia. This guy should not have been walking. And that is why I say, if the people that he had been abusing, the women that he had been abusing, the men he had been arresting and were armed, he would not be alive today. Terrorists don't deserve to go to court. Yes, Amnesty International dictates that when you arrest somebody, you have to treat them with respect and give them their due day in court. But this is a situation of war. If Monja is approaching you with a gun and you know he's going to torture you and you know he's going to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself. So yes, I commend this lawyer for initiating this process. But you know what? To me, it's of no consequence, because you know what? The people who sent him to abuse your people, the people who turned their eyes while he was doing the things that he was doing, are the same people who are going to try him. Are you kidding me? He was doing what they asked him to do. So the responsibility of trying Monja should be with the International Court of Justice. I believe the dictatorial regime of Cameroon should transfer him to the ICC right away and find all the bees who have committed crimes against humanity in our territory and send them to the Hague. Monja, your days are over. Something just tells me that they're either going to try him and just keep him to protect him, but if they ever release him, I would advise him not to set foot in our territory. His persona non grata in Ambazonia is over for me. Either way, let him stay in La Republique and never come back. That's all I have to say, ladies. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for those beautiful comments right there. Indeed, defense is a key, especially when you're being annexed or occupied, or having to have your human rights violated and taken away from you. Defense is priority. He couldn't overemphasize that. Well, we'll move on with the news, still having our Vice President here with us.
You're watching the People's Television, ABC Amba TV, the voice of Ambazonia. Stay tuned.
Pictures of Wom Road as well as other roads, the line of ring roads, are an eyesore and travel, as these roads have remained a nightmarish 40 years since the colonial president Bobia promised that he was to personally supervise it, and of course 61 years since the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia was duped in Fombem. It hasn't been done yet.
It is funny how La Republique du Cameroon believe that they can fool Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians all the time. President Paul Biya, on taking office, made his first outing to Bamenda, where he said, or should I say lied, that Bamenda was his second home, and made a fake promise that he, President Biya, was going to supervise the ring road. Today, 40 years after that promise, there is no ring road, because what God has put asunder, no one can put together.
Videos and pictures of commuters on the ring road do harbor, not because of the rainy season, but the same dry season. The road is still terrible because most often than not, denizens suffer on these poto farms on the animal tract called roads at cutthroat prices, each moment risking their lives. Now we're going to show you the mode of baptism video while we're still on this news today.
Indeed, and it's really funny how 40 years after President Biya, after he was made president, and 61 years after Ahijo's presidency, the populations of the Midlands, the Savannah, and most of the Atlantic are still experiencing hard times to travel because of bad roads. Many families have buried dear ones midway because of the impracticability of these roads. Many have died in the process, and pregnant women have had unplanned abortions on this rough animal tracks they call road.
Now let's ask ourselves the big question. Southern Cameroonians ask us, where is Paul Tassang and the Biya reconstruction plan? 3 years after, when people can't even move from one town to another in Ambazonia. You can't fool all the people all the time. The truth is, Ambazonia must be free. All right, let's have our Vice President again, Mr. Eric Ateh, here.
It is it's intriguing that we would ask those kind of questions. I don't blame you for it because a lot of Zonians ask the same question: where is this person, or why hasn't this been done? After these people absorbed our country, they had one goal: to destroy our infrastructure and to degrade us to a subservient people, because they knew that we had a better system of education. They knew that we had better morals, and so they permeated our entire territory with their very rotten and uncultured habits. I just want to reiterate here that one of their missions was to destroy every businessman from the southern Cameroons, because they were so afraid that while they carried on their plans of assimilation, the businessmen from our territory, from our country, could actually muster enough force to start pushing them out. So they destroyed every single vibrant businessman in Ambazonia, in the southern Cameroons. Then they destroyed the Cameroon Bank, the Southern Cameroon, the Cameroon Bank, which was a bank of Ambazonia. While they could not even borrow money to do business because France had to approve everything, the Southern Cameroon, all citizens could walk into the bank and get loans to start up a new business. We had technical schools. Our system was focused on the individual, how to build engineers, not just build people who will become lawyers or doctors, and understood that our country was a developing country. In Moyoka was the best police academy in the world. We train mobile wing officers, not just to keep the law and to keep the peace, to enforce the law and keep the peace, but to respect citizens. Because your primary responsibility as a peace officer or as a police officer is to respect the people who are paying your salary. These people came in and destroyed everything. So if any Ambazonian thought that Paul Biya promising the people from Bamenda that we're going to build a ring road that would benefit them, then I think they were dreaming. Because you know what? They will never do anything. It was never their intention to do anything that would boost us economically. Because they realize that they have abused us so much that there is this anger that is building up in us. And they know that if they did anything within our territory that would boost our economic stamina, we might actually wake up one day and muster enough strength to fend them off. And that is why they did not do what they were supposed to do. But you know what? We don't want their damn ring road. Excuse my language. We don't want their ring road. We can build our own ring road. We can do anything we want. Let them just leave our territory. These people will never, ever do anything that is good for Ambazonia. That is why I say we cannot live with them. And I hope the international community is listening to us. Our people have been so abused. You know, there was a story that was told a long time ago that dictators have a tendency of abusing you to the point where when they throw crumbs at you, you will start thanking them. Thank you, Papa, for giving me crumbs of bread. No, Ambazonians don't buy that. We don't want anything from La République du Cameroon. The only thing we will cherish is for them to realize that our people have divorced them emotionally or otherwise, and that they should withdraw their troops from our country so we as Ambazonians can come together and build the society that we really want to build. We know what we want. We know what we lost. And it is our intention to get it back. No flattery. We don't want ring roads or anything. We don't want them to even fix our roads. It's even better that they didn't fix it. It's even better that they did not even develop our territory. For instance, my ladies, let me ask you something. Look at Abuja. Look at the way Abuja was constructed. The Southern Cameroon is a very small territory. If these people, this bunch of bandits, were to leave our country right now, being undeveloped, it will give us the opportunity to start designing cities with good sewer system, you know what I mean, good electricity system. We can start from scratch. You know, if you look at Lagos, which is an old town, Lagos became what it became, overcrowded, and it wasn't well planned. But Abuja is a city that was built from scratch. So Ambazonians should be thankful that these people did not even develop our country. Let them leave so we can use our natural resources to build strong institutions like we are trying to do right now, to also construct good roads, not roads that you give money to you allocate money to a minister of transportation. What does he do? He keeps half of the money, and then he calls some company from Brazil or from any other country to come there and just put a thin layer. And after 3 months, there are potholes all over. We want to be able to build roads in our country where the concrete is this thick, and then you put the tar on top. Roads that will go for at least 4 or 5 years before you start doing maintenance. The reason why there are no roads, even in La République du Cameroon, is because the ministers they embezzle the money, and then they just do some facelifting on the roads so they can keep whatever money that was budgeted for that project. How can you live with people like that? Look at Nigeria. Go to every country that was colonized by Britain. Go to Ghana. Go to Africa. Go to Nigeria. Go to Kenya. Go to all those countries. The reason why they have developed so well, where, you know, to the point where you can actually go there and see real development, is because Britain didn't practice the policy of neocolonialism, in the sense that Britain did not sign cooperation agreements with all those former colonies. That before you do this, I have to have this. I own everything, and things like that. We are not part of the Francophone mentality. We are not part of their system. We are not part of that arrangement. The Republic of Cameroon, when they had their independence in 1960, January 1st, 1960, they signed an accord de coopération, that's in French, cooperation accords with France. That France owns everything beneath the soil. The Southern Cameroon was still a trust territory. We should not be beneficiaries of that dubious arrangement. That is why we are fighting. We are telling the international community that all 14 former French colonies are like provinces of France. The Southern Cameroon was not a French trust territory. It was a British trust territory of the Southern Cameroons. How did we end up with these people? How could the international community have done this to us? Culturally, we are different. We are not even like them. We are respectful people. If Ambazonia can stand up and fight the way they fight, where are the citizens of Cameroon? Have they ever stood up against their own government? You know why? Because they are inherently weak. No government in Nigeria would ever abuse Nigerians right now the way Southern Cameroon is abusing its own people without Nigerians rising up. Because that pride of being free is inherent in every person who understands the concept and the precept of the common law system. You go to court, you are not guilty until you are proven guilty. The state has to prove you guilty. But in that country, Cameroon, you are guilty. You have to prove yourself innocent. Everybody who is arrested is guilty. Then you have to prove yourself innocent. It's a twisted system. We are not used to that kind of stuff. So what I'm saying is, the Republic of Cameroon should leave our country. That's why every Ambazonian should come out and draft till you drop. The reason being is, if we draft enough money, we'll be able to assert our authority on the ground. And I'm not saying that the interim government should go and buy arms and give it to everybody on home front. But as a matter of fact, If you have the means to arm yourself, please do. Please do. Let's fight this fight as a collective. The few men and women that we have fighting and living in the bush might not be able to actually deliver this for us in due time. It might take longer, and by then we would have lost a lot of people. But we can end this within 6 months if every Ambazonian were to arm themselves. Let Ambazonia become a territory of armed men and women. That way, anybody from La République du Cameroon wearing any kind of uniform in our territory is a target. From civilians, from a grandmother, from a grandfather, we should all fight like hell and push them out. If we want to see an end to this, that's what we should do.
Definitely, Mr. Vice President. We must fight this fight as a collective. And before you continue, Mr. Vice President, I really want Ambazonians to see this particular road. Remember, we said in our news broadcast that we will show you this road. So I want you all to see this particular road. It's a mode of baptism. Just see it for yourself.
Where? Womb road. Now Okada that way don't fall inside hole. Where? See Okada don't fall inside hole. Womb road.
So the mangolas.
Now Okada that way don't fall inside hole. See Okada don't fall inside hole.
Where?
Now which kind of trouble this is? Where? Now which kind of trouble?
What I could say is it's a shame. It's a shame indeed. It's a shame because we all know, I mean, everybody knows, it is well known that roads are one of the basic amenities humans have a right to. Basic amenities, but here we have, I can understand their lamentations. Womb road. You can't imagine because people have a right to good roads, but as a basic amenity, but unfortunately they have to go through valleys and hills and peats, if you want to call it that, because it really does look like a peat. And having an accident there is like what you just happened, or having to fall inside is like what you just saw. You'd be having a mud baptism, an unplanned one. That is some kind of road that no one can actually take through to get to a wedding, because definitely you'd ruin your outfit. It's just terrible. It's
actually a road that leads to nowhere.
Indeed.
It can't help you get to anywhere. But you know, the most surprising thing is that the leaders, the president, some of the governors, just like we reported the last time, would come out to even make it as a promise, probably part of their manifestos, and at the end of the day, they are not able to do it. It's so pathetic that
Indeed.
integrity is also lacking in the leadership of La République du Cameroon. I mean, when you want them to do something, they don't do it. When they even say they want to do something, they don't even do it. So it's quite pathetic. When a country can't give you anything, when the leaders are not found accountable, when they are not responsible, when they lack integrity, because they have said they would do this road, and 40 years after, they haven't done it. Vice President, over to you.
Yes, Uncle Ladies, I can assure you that every word that you have spoken here is true. The fact of the matter is, why would you fix roads in a country where you don't believe that the people are your people? They have never treated us like their people. If you as a man or as a woman is married to your partner, and your partner doesn't consider you a partner, what the hell are you doing in that marriage? The fact is, La République du Cameroon, the Republic of Cameroon, has never considered, they know that we are not their citizens. Let me give you an example why I say that. Let's just drift away a little bit. When our people came out in 2017 and started protesting the abuses that they had been facing during the lawyer strike and the student strike, La République du Cameroon used real bullets to shoot at them. But when a political leader in their country claimed that he won the election against Paul Biya, and his supporters came out to the street and were protesting the same way our people were protesting, they used blanks, they used rubber bullets on them. They would shoot them on their legs just to disable them. But when it comes to us, they use real bullets. So that is proof that they, in their mind, they don't consider us Ambazonians as Cameroonians. But if we are not Cameroonians, then why are you in our country? Why not just leave? So these are the kind of abuses that we are talking about. Everybody knows this. When Kamto, a politician on the other side, protested, when his supporters came out and said, our candidate won, and they were breaking things and pressing, they were shooting them with blanks. But when our children came out, they brought helicopter gunships and slaughtered them like game. We can come from La République to Cameroon. The only thing that we want right now, like I said, is for us to fight like hell to free our country. We are capable of building our country. We are capable of creating our own institutions. We are capable of, we had it before. We had it before. We had a government. We had a prime minister. I distinctly remember when I was younger, I used to leave from Victoria to go visit my uncle in Boyer. And I wake up in the morning as a little boy, and I open the door, and there's milk outside. Milk was delivered every morning to every house. Sanitary officers were coming to your house, checking your teeth, making sure your toilet is clean, making sure you are keeping, you are actually keeping good hygiene around your house, checking the neighbor, just making sure that the kids are brushing their teeth. That is how caring our society was. That is how organized it was. Every town, every city had what's called Public Works Department, PWG. They had their own machines where they will fix roads. When the pothole, they will come right away and fix. And it was a beautiful system. But as soon as these people absorbed our country, they brought all these bad habits and degraded the country to the point where it actually looks worse than it was in 1961. Our country looks worse than it was in 1958. It is a shame. Other countries are progressing. Cameroon is going backwards. Why do they? Please. That's why I keep saying, no matter what they do, we are gone. We can never, ever, ever live together with these animals. Never, ever. We cannot live with them because these are not people that you can actually trust or live with. All they know is to embezzle money from their governments. All they know is abuse their people. All they know is, a few people get rich and the entire population is poor. They don't fix anything. Everything is just in tatters. So we want our country back, and we are going to get it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, thank you so much, Vice President, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for that. Well said words there. I mean, it's a rhetoric you said that has got me thinking. Why would you fix roads for people who you don't consider as your people? The question is, why is La Republic chosen to be the pharaoh that won't let Israel go? You don't consider these people as your people, and yet you would not just let them go. Well, we'll continue with this news because there's still a line of question for you, Mr. Vice President. La République du Cameroon is a lone delinquent, a failed state declared by IMF World Bank. Faced with a low mobilization of funding for the so-called reconstruction plan of the southern Cameroons, La République du Cameroon is urging France to release the 40 billion franc CFA promised in 2019 for this plan. The ongoing war that was declared on the southern Cameroons by the octogenarian La République du Cameroon's dictator, Paul Biya B. Vondo, since November 30th, 2017, has brought devastating effects to the economy, rendering the state's treasury impotent, unable to settle its internal and external debts. As of now, La République du Cameroon is a lone delinquent and a failed state, as declared, I said, by IMF World Bank last May 2022. This catastrophic situation frightens even La République du Cameroon's godfather, France, from disbursing a meager 40 billion franc CFA promised 3 years ago. Simple loans that they usually give with the left hand and take back 100-fold with the right.
Paul Tatzang, the colonial minister delegate to the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development, who doubles as the national coordinator of the Paul Biya reconstruction program, regrets, in his words, says 3 years after these funds are still not available. Once the plan was announced, we had a distinguished guest in the country, the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, who had publicly announced the contribution of France to the tune of 40 billion francs CFA. Now, he expressed his disappointment at a press conference held on the 8th of July 2022 in Yaoundé after the holding of the fourth session of the steering committee. Following this, the French ambassador to Cameroon indicated that his country conditioned the release of this funding to the pacification of these regions. He quotes again, before starting the reconstruction, the region must be pacified. You will have to preach a peace agreement within the armed gangs and the government, said Christophe Galou during an interview broadcast on the 19th day of April 2022 on public television CRTV. A position that Minister Paul Tatzang contests, citing the case of Ukraine and admonishing that Ukraine's partners meant to mobilize funding estimated at $750 billion for the reconstruction of the country, while the war is still ongoing.
The Paul Biya so-called reconstruction plan is struggling to mobilize funds to finance the construction of infrastructure destroyed by the war in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. Initially estimated at 89 billion franc CFA, the plan now requires 154 billion franc CFA. However, after 18 months of implementation, the plan's coffers show only 11.5 billion franc CFA, even though nothing feasible is seen on the ground at home front, 75% of which have been contributed by the Cameroonian state, 1.5 billion franc CFA by Japan. The release of a second envelope of 900 million franc CFA is under discussion, 1 billion franc CFA by the private sector and 300 million franc CFA by the United Nations Development Programme UNDP, which is also a technical partner of the project.
The ongoing Ambazonia war that has raged on since 5 years and counting has, without fear of favor, put La Republic du Cameroon on its knees, and the country has been unable to settle its debts both internally and externally. Finance stakeholders meeting with World Bank, IMF and other donor bodies last February in Yaoundé and taking into account the country's pitiful financial situation gave La Republic du Cameroon up to May 2022 to settle its debt. According to the World Bank representatives at that conclave, observing that Cameroon was becoming a loan delinquent, said that this May deadline was the last rope to draw, given that the country failed with another appointment since August 2021.
View the precarious financial quagmire and continuous escalation of hostilities meted out on a daily basis from the Ambazonian restoration fighters, the number of armored cars destroyed and the great number of its soldiers killed by ARFs, La Republique du Cameroon is bleeding. To say with certainty that La Republique du Cameroon certifies World Bank conditions will be one of the miracle in recent times. The crunch of the restoration war has made the Yaoundé junta to borrow to pay civil servants salaries. The war has made government to go so low even to private business persons like Bolloré, Dangote, etc., with cap in hand to borrow. The crunch of Ambazonia liberation struggle has put the Yaoundé junta at crossroads, with much money borrowed and placed in wrong hands of agents who fool the junta they are capable of stopping the war. Yet, they feed fat after sowing confusion in the ranks. Such confusion and uncertainty makes every donor body, including friends of all, skeptical, talking and taking the risk to borrow again.
All right, Vice President, remember, we are doing the news together today. Now, a country that borrows, a country that can't pay salaries to their staff, a country that can't take care of themselves, How can they take care of Ambazonians?
Well, they can't take care of themselves, but it's mind-boggling, and it's a shame that France and other countries would even be considering borrowing the money to reconstruct Amazonia. Who destroyed Amazonia? Who burned the 400 villages? They did. I don't think people really understand what is going on, but let me just make this emphatically clear. The Republic of Cameroon burned over 400 villages. They know that our people are resolved. They know that our people are strong-willed. They are trying to borrow money. I'm just supposing, but I think I'm right. They are trying to borrow money for resettlements. Now that our people are displaced all over. Some of them are in Nigeria as refugees. Some of them are in Ghana. Some of them are actually just suffering in the other side, the other side of the country. So La Republic is probably going to take that money and go and start reconstructing settlements and bringing in Cameroonians, Francophones, to settle in our territory. So if they cannot beat us militarily, if they cannot kill all of us, they will resettle us. That is what they are trying to do. I don't trust them. So I'm calling on the international community not to give any money to Cameroon. If they want our country reconstructed, let them bring the Cameroon to the table so we can negotiate. They can negotiate their exit from our country, and the international community, if they want to give us loans, if we need it, or if they want to give us grants to build our country, we ourselves are going to build our own country. If the international community gives that money to Cameroon, we're never going to. We are going to tear down every efforts to build anything in our territory, because their intention is to populate our country with Cameroonians, with Francophones. So you burn 400 villages, and then you borrow money from the international community and say, you know what, these villages are empty. Give us money, let's rebuild the villages and resettle the people. They are not going to resettle Southern Cameroonians there. They are going to rebuild those houses, and then bring in people from Yaoundé, people from Douala, people from the northern Cameroon to come and settle in our territory, to make us a minority in our territory. That's their true intention. Ambazonians, wake up. Cameroon government, why would you be going to borrow $40 billion when you spend so much buying ammunition to kill our people instead of feeding them? If you love them so much, why did you have to spend all this money killing them? If you love them so much, why is it that for 60 years you never did one thing, one development, just one development in our territory? No. They are not our brothers, they are not our friends, they are not our compatriots, and they are not our citizens. Please,
That's a very
let them
good
leave.
question right there.
Let them borrow their money and go fix their own country. We don't need their money. We will fix our own country. The only task is that the international community intervenes so we can have a peaceful separation between us and them. So we can have our country back, and we will be the ones to decide if we want to just work hard and rebuild our country, or if we want to ask for help people or take loans from other countries. That should be our business. The government of Ambazonia is capable. We will be capable as soon as we gain our independence to rid our country.
Indeed, indeed.
Thank you.
Speaking of peaceful separations, there's one question I've been asking a lot of SOS from the interim government. I've been asking one question because it seems like La République du Cameroun are dragging their feet to the mediation table, and there seems to be a reason. One time I heard Secretary of State from the interim government say probably because they are feeding fat from, especially Indian, because they seem to have, natural resources like oil, and they don't want to let go of that, and they do not want to do anything for Ambazonia, not even roads, nothing. They keep, having people killed in Ambazonia. They don't want to do anything for them, and they just want to feed fat from the resources. So I'm wondering, what's your take on why La République du Cameroun is dragging their feet to the mediation table? They seem to be boycotting it every single time. So what do you think could be the reason? Do you also think it's because they're feeding fat from Indian and every other part of Ambazonians' natural resources?
I think you hit it on the nail. They okay. Let me go back. Let me go back to history. I just want to explain something. In 1961, when there was when they had that fake referendum or whatever they call it, when France and Britain kind of just handed our territory to these armed robbers, La République of Cameroon. Even the Republic of Cameroon did not want us to join them. They were kind of complaining to Britain, like, we don't have the resources to actually inherit a country. They didn't want us. You know why? Because they didn't know that we had oil. When France discovered oil in Diane and Bakassi, what did they say to La République of Cameroon? Please, abolish the federation. Because you know what? Now you have a system where they have their prime minister, you have your prime minister, and then you have one federal president. But you know what? If you don't abolish that federation, we will not be able to tap into their natural resources. So in 1972, President Ahidjo called for a fake referendum. Most referendums, okay, for instance, you do not take a majority country and a minority population and join them together and have a referendum. That referendum should have been Southern Cameroonians, if we want to stay with them, or we want to go, or we want to break the federation or not. But they put everything together. Everybody voted, and they claimed that we voted to dismantle the federation. The only reason why they did that is to have access to the oil that was discovered by France. And I'm pretty sure even Southern Cameroonian leaders did not even know that we had oil. But France, being an advanced country, had actually discovered oil behind our back. And so they persuaded Ahidjo to abolish the federation so that Cameroon should become a unitary state with a central government in Yaoundé, so that they can pass through the Accord de Coopération with Cameroon and stop our oil. That is what happened. That is what happened. And then since France owns everything, Cameroon themselves are dependent on France for everything. So even though they take all these natural resources from our territory, they have never had the goodwill to actually help our people, because their major goal was to assimilate us. That's why you had more bilingual schools in the southern Cameroons than you had bilingual schools in French Cameroon, because they would transform us into Cameroonians. They were trying to transform us into French speaking. But you know what? We don't want to be French speaking. Some of us speak French, but you know what? We just want to be who we are. So that is what is because they discovered oil in our territory, and they have been exploiting it for 60 years. Let me ask you something. If you are stealing from somebody, don't you think the most decent thing for you to do is at least just feed that person? How can you come to somebody's country? You are everything, taking the natural resources, and you cannot even fix roads. You cannot even schools. Then on top of that, you abuse them on top of it. You go, you kill them, you burn their houses, you destroy their schools, you burn their farms. Haven't you seen videos of La République terrorists going into villages, not only burning the houses and killing the people, but actually burning their farms to starve them? How can we ever live like that? Kanko ladies, I'm telling you, La République doesn't want to come to the table. They're dragging their feet because you know what? They always thought they could beat us to submission. And in every revolution and in every independence quest or freedom quest, there are always those within who betray their own people, like what happened in South Africa, Chief Buthelezi. So they are hoping to soften us and use some of our comrades to destroy our strength, to make us weak. So if La République knew that if they go to that table, they will win the case and we stay in Cameroon, they've been there. But they are waiting for that moment where they can actually trade us amongst our means, amongst us, they can go to that table eventually and keep us within Cameroon. That's what they are waiting for. They know that we are resolved. If they go to that table, the law is on our side. Our country, you know what I mean? The United Nations voted for our independence. They know that we come from different backgrounds. They know that country of our own. They know that we had a government. They know what they did. So legality is not on their side. That is why they are running away from that table. Because France is telling them, the day you set foot in Switzerland and sit on that negotiation table is the day these people are gone. So they would rather kill us than sit on that table. But you know what? That's why I say, if they don't want to come to the table, what else do we have to do? We just have to draft, everybody on arm themselves and shoot them out. We have to flush them out. We have to. Because if they don't want to come and sit and negotiate peacefully, what else do? Do we just sit fighting for year after year and losing people? We are not fighting. We are not attacking their territory. They are the ones coming to kill us. We have been so decent. We have never, ever encouraged our people to cross the border and go over there and kill them like they kill us. So isn't it advisable for us to encourage our citizens themselves to stand up and be citizen soldiers? Every Ambazonian should arm themselves. That is the message I'm telling Ambazonian. Every grandmother, if you live alone with your grandmother, they are going to come in there, irrespective of your age. They are going to rape you and kill you. So make sure before they do any harm to you, you pluck about 5 of them. You blow up 5 heads before they kill you. Because they don't make any decision you are old, young, or whatever. They kill everything they see. That's what they have been doing to our people. I'm sorry to speak that way, but you know what? Our people have been abused enough. And I think it's time for us to take a stand and really put things in perspective. That, you know what, they are no longer welcome in our territory. Thank you.
All right, of course, that's the idea. We have to draft until we drop. Before we go into the draft proper, Mr. Vice President, we have this video. Sure that's going to interest every Ambazonian. I mean, let's have a little smile. I mean, you have to be happy to draft, right? Let's give you this dance so that you can get prepared for the next section that we are about to get into.
Hello everyone. This is Maviki. I am coming to you from the great Mezam County. I am coming to you today is Wednesday, July 13, 2022. I am coming to you from Mezam County, the great Mezam County, the one and only Mezam County in Ambazonia. I am coming with a big announcement, huge announcement. See, like this, my gown, huge announcement. On Saturday, July 16, at 7 p.m. Amba time. 7 p.m. Amba time is 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. The whole of Ambazonia is converging in Mezam. Why they're coming? Mezam County is drafting. I am telling you, it's going to be hot, just like this summer. Everybody meets in Mezam. Whether you are a child born in Mezam, whether you are a grown-up who went to school in Mezam, whether you have friends from Mezam, whether you work in Mezam, whether your parents have friends from Mezam, whether one Mezam woman has cooked at you and you have eaten, whether you used to come and spend the holidays with your friends who live in Mezam or who are from Mezam, or if you've even just heard of Mezam County, And the Mezam is the hub of education in that part of Ambazonia. We need everybody to come. Come one, come all. We are waiting on all of you to come and support the great Mezam County. Why? Because we want to liberate Ambazonia. And when Mezam backs, the whole of Ambazonia shakes. So we need all of you. Do you wonder why they put Mezam County as the first county to draft? Because when Mezam roars, the whole of Ambazonia shakes and La Republique dwindles down to zero. So come one, come all. We are waiting on you. Come and join us in Mezam County. Again, it's Saturday, July 16 at 7 p.m. Amba time. Bafut County is inviting you. Bafut LG is inviting you. Balinyonga LG is inviting you. We need Bamendankwe is inviting you. You don't need Joe from Bamendankwe. We need Mankon Bakchangwa is inviting you. Nkwenza is inviting you. Tuba LG is inviting you. And the great Santa LG is inviting you. You know the great way to Mezam County is Santa LGA. Balinyonga LGA is especially inviting you because we need everybody to come. Come one, come all. You know the fufu they cook in Bali. You're going to eat some when you come. We are waiting on you. Then the people in Santa, they're going to prepare some nice atu. So come one, come all. Thank you very much for listening. Again, this is Maviki. I'm from Balinyonga LGA and Santa Local Government and the great Mezam County. Thank you for listening. Mwah. I'll be waiting on you.
All right, Mayangi there waiting on you. I'm sure that you are also waiting on yourself, and all Ambazonians should be ready for Saturday. All right, this is a memo from our 22 County Draft Replanning Committee, and it's for a meeting. All right, and it's from the Department of Finance Resource Mobilization, National Treasury, Department of Home Affairs, Community Mobilization. I'm sure that you would want to see what the memo says. It says to all county coordinator is dated Thursday, 14th July 2022. The subject is County Draft Pre-Planning Meeting, and it says fellow comrades from the Department of Finance Resource Mobilization and National Treasury, they intend to meet with each county executives on Thursday of their draft week to highlight key issues to optimize their draft result. Therefore, it is incumbent upon county coordinators to get their team ready and reach out to the Department Finance Resource Mobilization with a time for this crucial meeting to validate their draft readiness and plan the event coordination. Now, the list below includes some key issues to be discussed.
Let me talk about those issues. We have the coordinator's picture for the flyers sent to Secretary of State for Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization, NIJO. The county official account and other payment platforms are confirmed with Secretary of State for National Treasury, Financial Secretary of Local Government Areas, and RM representatives for all local government areas are adequately briefed. The dress code and cultural music to grace occasion, to nominate 2 indigenes to assist in drafting the CC in president's speeches, guest speakers on ABC TV to sensitize and promote off-county draft, the county publicity, contact with NT to discuss emergency contingency, payments and withdrawal modalities. Baskets for the draft day agree with Department for Finance and Resource Mobilization, National Treasury funds allocation, county to create draft coordination team, plus the Department for Finance Resource Mobilization, WhatsApp forum by Wednesday. Defense chair to mediate a joint call between the County General of ARF and the President before the draft day.
Also, they will discuss draft day modalities with the Department Finance Resource Mobilization and the National Treasury and the ABC TV. Draft agenda highlighting presence and tax. Of course, prayer, anthem, Zoom security, ABC, WhatsApp, traditional music, draft season rules, conduct, Zoom chat management, and many others. Of course, is signed by SOS, DFRM, NT, and DHAC. All right, before we would like to play that video of Mayangi again, but that's after we meet the Vice President. You should all know by now that he is a true and worthy son of Mezam. So I would want to know how he feels.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Lady. I feel really great. I know that, Mezam County has always stood strong. The last two drafts, 2020 and 2021, Mezam County came out strong, and the people of Ambazonia also responded to Mezam County. So I'm appealing to every Ambazonian to also come into the Mezam County War Draft and help Mezam County to give us some support. Mezam County has also stood with so many counties during the two previous drafts. So, like we have a saying in our pidgin language that say Nanjangi, which means today you benefit, tomorrow the other person benefits. So, other counties, we have 13 counties. Let the other 12 counties come into our draft and support the people of Mezam, and also support the stabilization basket, and also the basket that we have decided in Mezam Executive to put. I think it's called the hotspot basket. So, as a matter of fact, I'm just inviting every single Ambazonian to try to log on and help Mezam County so we can have a successful draft and really kind of put things in order on home front. We've been going through a lot with the coup plotters and everything, and I think it's time for the stakeholders of this revolution to actually come out and support Mezam County so we can do the things that we need to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. I think would just
let's just ask him one more question.
Okay.
Mr. Vice President, yes. Just one more question. From our records here, we have this proof that for the last two drafts, I mean, you are recorded as one of the most persons that have drafted, I mean, with huge sums. I mean, that shows that you are very, very passionate and particular about these particular struggles that we all are in. Now, what are your words? Because I'm sure that some persons are still struggling. Some persons might want to do it nicodemously. Some persons might not have decided on what to do. But as someone who has done this continuously in a big way, what do you have to say?
What I have to say is that the basic requirement for every Ambazonian is to draft $1,000 into their LGA. Some people who live in the diaspora, some of them are retired, some of them don't have the means. You can always pay half and then continue paying till the end of the year, complete your draft. But what I want to say is that nothing is small. And I don't think only those who contribute big are good servants of Ambazonia. Everybody is. Like I made an example one time when I was on the show with Director Paddy. There are women, elderly women in the diaspora, especially in where I live, the state where I live, who come here to babysit for their daughters who just had babies, or for their son-in-laws or whatever. And other families will actually bring their own babies. Other families will actually bring their own babies so they can babysit for them. If that grandmother, who is almost 65, 70 years old, who doesn't really work, is just babysitting for a little pocket change, if they can muster even $100 or $200 and draft in this revolution, yes, they haven't drafted $1,000 because they don't have the means, but I think they should be appreciated very much. And I think those are the people that are the heroines and the heroes of Ambazonia. Retired people who are doing everything they can to give the little money that they have, that they could have used it for their own benefit, They have used it to benefit the revolution. That's who we have to project. So, like I said, let everybody come out and do their best and draft. But the requirement is $1,000 to your LGA. But if you have a little more, you can give. If I have a little more, I will always be willing to give. But that's all I can say about that. Just come out and help Ambazonia, help us fight this war, and help our people on home front who are bleeding to protect themselves. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I want to be a little more specific from what Onye said about 2020. In 2020, we learned from the Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization that you here, Mr. President, Ambazonians, I'm sure you're listening, he drafted 25,000 US dollars. That's the specifics there. And she just asked your motivation and you gave us that explanation, and we can understand that you're doing this for the struggle. It's connected and linked to your passion for the struggle. So apart from you doing this yourself, because they say example, lead by example, and you've done that already. Apart from leading by examples, do you think there's any other way that you can motivate other Ambazonians to also, have this passion to draft in order to liberate themselves? Is there any other thing you think that you can do in your power to, motivate them to draft?
You can motivate people all you want, but people will draft what they can. Okay, for instance, I think when they're talking about I drafted this huge amount of money, I don't know if they're talking about every county, or I don't know if they're talking about the money that I put in the revolution. Okay, for instance, as vice president, I received calls from all over Ambazonia, projects. So all through the year, I'm helping projects if I have the means. If there is some problem going on, I come in and I chip in. So when I go and look at all my receipts for the money that I've spent during the course of the year, it's not only the draft season, it's quite substantial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody can do that. But, it is what I want to encourage those who are able to do is that please don't abandon our people. Because I can guarantee you that I have been so disturbed by the fact that there are people who have just turned a blind eye to the plight of our people. There are people in the United States and Europe who are making so much money, but they have never contributed a dime to this revolution. What I'm trying to say is that there are people who make all the money in the world, but they will never, ever, ever, ever contribute to this revolution. Maybe because they don't want to show their faces, maybe because they don't want maybe other members of their family to know that they're actually supporting Ambazonia. But what we are saying is, if you have the means, the only encouragement I can give you is that call your LGA chair, give your private contribution, and then instead of putting your name in public, we'll give you a code. We'll give you a code and say, hey, person A or person B gave us $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever amount, and his code is this. So only you and the county will know your code. That way, you will never, feel like that information is out there, because there are a lot of people who still do business back and forth from the United States to Cameroon. So they feel like if they expose themselves, they will never be able to get visas, because some of them are American citizens or European citizens. They will never be able to get visas to go to Cameroon to do their business or to visit their family members. My encouragement is, please, we are not going to expose you. We cherish every contribution, and we're going to keep your contributions private. You can become an anonymous donor. So that is my encouragement to everybody. But again, I said the people with the highest honors are those who are retired, those who are here to babysit, those who are here without jobs, but are still able to squeeze the little money that they have to contribute to this revolution. Those are the true heroes and heroines, not people who actually have jobs or who have the means who contribute big. I don't believe we should be praising those people. We should thank them for what they are doing, but we should always remember that if somebody doesn't have and they give whatever they have, that person is also a patriot, and we should hail them for sacrificing the little that they have to free their people. That's all I was saying. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. You've heard it all from the Vice President himself. He doesn't, ask you necessarily to give or to get as much as he gave to give, but your widow's mite, that money out of passion for freedom is what he is asking that you draft. Do not just leave it for the interim government. It is all about Ambazonians. You are an Ambazonian, so your readers might count and give it all that you have. Let there be this passion attached to your quest for freedom. There is an announcement right now.
Yes, we have these announcements here. It says, ACT, Team Ambazonia Town Hall Meeting. Team Ambazonia is inviting you to a scheduled Town Hall Zoom meeting. The theme for the Town Hall Zoom meeting is facilitation, mediation, dialogue, and negotiation. Of course, it's today, July 14, 2022. The time is 8 p.m. Amber time. Of course, you must be on time. And there are hot topics for discussion. TPS, how to benefit from it, and of course, the historical perspective of the act. And most importantly, Pa Augustine Dangam will be speaking. I'm sure that you do not want to miss this particular town hall meeting organized by Team Ambazonia. Now, before we move forward, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, rather, you would want to say something about Team Ambazonia and the negotiation and what they are doing, especially with the TPS and also with the Swiss-led process.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you for that question, but I also want to thank the United States for recognizing that our people are actually in distress, because that is some form of acceptance that there's really a genocide going on in our country. I remember when there was during the Liberian Civil War, the TPS was also given to the temporary protective status was also given to Liberia. So we have been shouting to the international community, just pleading and telling them that, hey, we are being killed every single day. And finally, the United States has made a statement. That is a great thing for us. But, you know, when it comes to the Swiss-led process, I just want to give my own comment on that. What is mediation? Mediation only happens when somebody decides to say, hey, I'm going to be the mediator for these warring parties. The interim government, sometime about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, had approached about 3 years ago, approached the Swiss government and asked them if they could mediate between us and the Republic of Cameroon. And the Swiss government accepted that they would do their best to bring both parties to the table so we can discuss our eventual separation. So the interim government decided and brought in other people, other groups, other pressure groups into what is known as ACT. Unfortunately, because the interim government is the most effective entity in this revolution, insignificant groups that we had brought into ACT decided to try to usurp the authority of the interim government by transforming that ACT platform as a superstructure above the interim government. But we protested, and they decided to go out there and say, hey, we are no longer members of ACT. You cannot push somebody out of a house that they built. So let's see how that goes. There can be no negotiation without both parties agreeing to sit on the table. We are going to keep doing what we are doing. We are going to keep attacking La République, defending ourselves from the Republic of Cameroon soldiers trying to kill us, until they realize that they can never win this war, just like Thibault Nash had told them when he was still Undersecretary for African Affairs. He had actually told the Republic of Cameroon that America couldn't win the Vietnam War because you cannot win a war against a people, especially people who are yearning to be free. You will fight and fight and fight, and at the end, you have to end up on the table. And so he had advised the Republic of Cameroon that, hey, you know what, engage these people in negotiations. So that was the American position, and that has been the position of the international community. But at the same time, La République du Cameroon is bent on beating us, on the war front instead of actually coming to the table. But that is their prerogative. We can't force them to come to the table, just like we cannot be forced to go on the table. We are defending ourselves. We are the ones being attacked, But I believe that La République du Cameroon will someday come to its senses, that they can never defeat Ambazonia, because they're yearning for freedom. That burning flame of freedom will still continue burning in people's hearts. And they're going to keep fighting until they get their freedom. So that's the way it's going to be. So let's hope that someday they come to their senses and realize that instead of wasting lives, it is better to come and sit, let's talk, and we go our separate ways. That's all we are hoping for, and we hope the international community will also wake up from sleep and persuade the Republic of Cameroon to do just that, because we are willing to go to the table to negotiate, not from a position of weakness. It's because we value the life of every human being. We want to see the end of the war, but not victory, not the end of the war by capitulation. No, we are not going to say, hey, we surrender. We're going to fight till the last man standing. We're going to fight until we get our independence. But at the same time, why fight and kill so many people when we can just go to the table and negotiate and everybody goes their separate ways? So that's the way we look at it. Thank you.
I like the president's rhetoric. Why fight and kill when we can go our separate? Sorry, the vice president. I beg your pardon. Why fight and kill? Why when we can go our separate ways? I mean, that's a really good rhetoric. There's no to that question. There's no reason to not go your separate ways. The war is killing on both sides, both on Cameroon, both on Ambazonia. So just come to the mediation table, have your terms, you can't stay together, and go your separate ways peacefully and come to the end of this war. We continue with the news.
Following recent bomb blast and explosive that have hit Yaoundé City, the Colonial Senior Divisional Officer from FON, the division that covers Yaoundé, Mr. Digden Emmanuel Maril, in a prefectorial order, has banned denizens of Yaoundé from either moving about with or dropping suspicious items such as bags, plastic bags, papers, and packages. The senior divisional officer, by this decision, orders all forces of law and order to start immediate searches on every city dweller carrying any item that is suspicious, especially black plastic papers, and put every suspect to book.
You know, on July 31st, 2021 last year, an explosive device was discovered in a backpack in the Nsimeong district. On 2nd October, a homemade bomb exploded at a place called Colombia in the Nsam neighborhood. The Emana, Melon and Damas neighborhoods have equally had their share of bomb blasts, and the most recent one being that of Mokolo Market of July 2nd this year, 2022. Following this development, several questions have arisen amongst the public. For example, what is behind these explosives? For some, they appear to be an experimental phase of an undisclosed project that is still being prepared. The said project would take advantage of the security crisis in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, as well as the incursions of Boko Haram in the far north.
The persistence of these crises is said to be the origin of the circulation of certain weapons and the infiltration of certain individuals with perverse intentions. Because of these fear, quarters and residences in Yaoundé that lodge Ambazonians have been subjected to impromptu searches and arbitrary arrest of Ambazonian refugees who are barely trying to make ends meet. Some of these refugees are frequently arraigned on flimsy or trumped-up charges of not having identification papers, or for those who have, that the papers are expired. By so doing, many are locked up unjustly and money extorted from them.
The explosion of 2nd July 2022 came at a time when the colonial delegate, General for National Security Mbarga Ngwele, had signaled the intentions of Ambazonian separatists to accentuate attacks in the neighboring regions and to extend them to other towns to avenge their own. Addressing his regional collaborators, the police boss asked them to take appropriate measures to thwart these planned operations. Mr. Vice President, what do you think about this?
Huh?
Okay.
All right. A little mix up there, but we'll definitely get the vice president once he's ready. But start, talking about a city that is marred with lack of integrity, lack of value for lives, and right about now, insecurity within them. I mean, it's terrible. I think the vice president is alert now.
So, Vice President.
Yeah, I kind of lost you guys, ladies, for a little bit. What we am I just giving my closing remarks now, or?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
sure.
yes, sir. Your closing remark, as well as your last words on this
Bombing.
particular bombing that we reported, bombing in Yaoundé. I mean, we are concerned, a city marred with a whole lot of issues, and to top it all, or to crown it all, insecurity is part of the issues that they are struggling within themselves as well. So we are just still, of course, expressing ourselves and also thinking out loud how they can take care of us when they can't even handle mere insecurities.
Yeah, they can barely take care of themselves, so they want to degrade us to their level. That is just the thing. And whatever happens in their country, most of the time, it's not really something that concerns me a lot. We talk about it in the news, but to me, it's just foreign news. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank you both very much for a wonderful get-together. This is the first time I've ever been on your platform. But like I said in my opening remarks, I have been quite impressed with the way you have brought professionalism, tact, and passion to the work you do here. And for that, I really want to thank you. And I think I speak for everyone here because I've had conversations with some people on home front who have actually expressed their gratitude and their pride in seeing you do the work that you do here. So again, I want to thank you very much. My fellow Ambazonians, this Saturday, July 16th, we are inviting you to the Mezam Ambazonia War Draft. Please come heavy. Come and support Mezam County. Like I said before during the course of this interview, Mezam County has always stood with every county in Ambazonia. This is not fabrication. This is something that you know for a fact. So this is a time for every Ambazonian, every county, every LGA to come out and show their support for Mezam County. We would really, really appreciate it. So I look forward to seeing every Ambazonian on that platform, and we will appreciate your contributions. No matter how small or big it is, everything will be appreciated. So thank you again, Uncle Ladies. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Star Smart, thank you. Onye Opala, I really, really appreciate you, and I really enjoyed hanging out with you today. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. Thank you, Ambazonia. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, the Vice President of Ambazonia. And on behalf of the entire Undaunted crew, of course, ABC Amber TV, management, and the peoples of Ambazonia, we wish to thank you so much again, Mr. Vice President, for creating the time amidst your very, very busy schedule. Thank you, and see you on Saturday. Undaunted will be live in Mezam. And with that report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. Just in case you didn't meet up with the news today, here is a recap.
In today's news, we had full briefings from the Vice President of Ambazonia. La Republic du Cameroon's administration has arrogated motorcycles in southern Cameroon. Human rights lawyers has matched words with action. They dragged notorious Moja to military court for kidnapping, abuse of power and torture.
Where is the ring road Paul Biya promised 40 years ago is a question we asked today. Today we proved that La Republic du Cameroon is a lone delinquent, a failed state declared by IMF and World Bank. Also, Panicky Yaoundé has banned suspicious items from public places. And that was it for Undaunted tonight, bringing it to the news Untold Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor Sir Smart and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. I am Onyi Opala.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.